Oh yeah, yeah. Got to get ready for the show. Yeah. Oh no, I think I'll just wear my hair down tonight. Oh wait a minute. Powder. More powder. Thank you. Thank you. I'm ready. Oh, we're live, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we're live.
Oh. Oh.
Well, you're off.
Welcome to the grow.
This happens every week, you guys. We have to wait for Roger to get ready every fucking
week.
Every week.
Having some issues with the restream as well on my TV.
We got a wide open show tonight that's just going to be we're just going to talk about everything. So we thought we'd start off with a little comedy skit. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. So, there we go.
Vegetables. We were.
Yep, vegetables.
We were doing imitation vegetables. Get mood. Veggies.
So this is the Growing with Fishes podcast. We talk about aquaponics, regenerative soil, organics, organic hydroponics, and all different kinds of just generally sustainable growing methods of all kinds.
And keep it clarification of basic grow knowledge too, sometimes.
Oh yeah, all kinds of grow knowledge, and sometimes cash making and other fun things.
Smart ideas for free.
Yeah. So this week we nobody had an opening in their schedule, unfortunately, but we do have a couple of cool things lined up. We have the gentleman from the hold on, I'm sorry, the podcast next week. Sorry, I'm stoned. Josh, help me out.
Yeah, I don't know his name. I've just been listening to this guy for the last I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks hardcore, but he goes by Heavy Days on Instagram.
Yeah, Heavy Days. That's it.
And he's been interviewing breeders. I don't know how many episodes he's done, 12 to 20, something like that. And a lot of them have been the ChemDog family, and just hearing that whole story, and it's really cool stuff. I mean, it's for those who don't know, it started with bag seed and at a Grateful Dead show, and kind of went from there. Show. Yeah, and so these guys are all deadheads, and it's really powerful to see how that music and that group, spread the seed, spread a lot of what was going on. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to hear what he's got to say.
Yeah, so he'll be with us next week, and then I'm working on a couple of other cool guests for the lineup after that. So hopefully, yeah, I think we'll wait and make sure we confirm the dates on a couple of these people. But I got some cool people lined up.
And you want
to hear from?
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say we might hear from Aquaponic Dummy later tonight, right?
Yeah, for Aquaponic Dummies fans, we there might be a sighting tonight.
Might be a sighting.
Yeah, it's going to be within 75,000 miles of us tonight. So we're going to try and catch him when he goes by. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Steve, you guys got this great show coming up in about in a couple of weeks over there, with like several special guests. You want to, before we get into the, wild and woolly show tonight, you want to tell them about that real quick? Well, we got fresh listeners. You and Josh.
Well, we've decided to postpone the event.
Well,
so we weren't getting the ticket sales we were hoping for, quite honestly, and it's the summertime, and it's just kind of in the past, Steve has put on a lot of aquaponics education stuff, and I think he's doing one this weekend. He can talk about that in a minute, but a lot of it's hit educators and people who have time off in the summers, and this one is kind of geared a little bit more towards farmers. Well, it is geared towards farmers, and farmers are busy as fuck in the summer.
Yeah,
so,
I can attest to that.
Yeah, so I think it was just kind of a little impractical timing on our part. We were excited because everyone was come together, and so we're going to postpone it. We haven't figured out a date yet, but it's going to be in the winter. So we should just kind of continue to stir that enthusiasm and get some people motivated for that.
I think that's a great idea because as a musician, I can tell you the last thing you want to ever do on the 4th of July is play a gig indoors, because that's the one place there will be nobody there on the 4th of July indoors. It's kind of like, I can see that. I mean, we're all busy. I mean, I can tell you what, it's crazy this year too. The climate's been weird all over the country. You know, none of the temps were right. You know, it was a lot. Well, it's not bad. It was a lot cooler here all through the spring. And like I said, we had like spring like weather all the way into June, and now it's triple digits over here. So, yeah.
People have their money tied up. You know, I have my money tied up in my what I'm doing. Yeah. You know, and so we're on, you know, spending freeze, survival till crops come in. You know,
and taxes have been due. If you're not caught up on your taxes, you're going to be having to pay your taxes by June. You know, right about now at the latest on your properties too. You know, they come out in late spring, and some people can't pay them. So, yeah, money's tight right now. But yeah, you're right. Summertime is really hard to get people, especially if you're going to be indoors. People don't want to, you know, spend their days indoors either. That's just one of those things. But a fall winter type thing, wow, I might even be able to make that one. You know, have to scrimp and save a little, but I really want to go to that.
I think we're just gonna do that, postpone it till next winter, and we'll get a date settled in the next week or two, and then we'll kind of put that out there and try to give people more time to plan. You know?
And can we talk real quick about? We want to give a shout out to our friend Chris Trump. He's having something.
He's doing his thing. Yeah, thanks for saying that. And I'd still like to go. I know me and you both talked about it. I don't think I'm going to do it, but it's not. It's the weekend of the 12th through 14th, something like that, 12th through 16th. I don't know the exact dates, but that second weekend in July, in Boise, Idaho, and it's $500. All the details, but I know it. I would go if I could. You know, it's only 6 hours away from me, and I'm too busy.
Yeah, he's gonna. And for those of you that don't know, Chris Trump is one of the most, the biggest KNF, Korean natural farming gurus in the United States. He runs a major big
world. In the world.
Well, he claimed he was top 3 or 4 in the United States, is what he said. But I'm just going by what he said. You know, you guys say he's the greatest. I'm not going to dispute that. He said he's in the top 3. So, you know, so I thought that was nice of him to be humble. But Steve, you want to tell us about how big his farm is? Because you got more of the stats, or either one of you guys had the stats, don't you? He's got like 800,000
acres of macadamia nuts in. I just read it. You just put up a nice post. If anybody is interested in joining the Korean Natural Farming Facebook group, there's been some drama in the community, and Chris is really trying to wade through that graciously. And so he posted a big long thing, kind of explaining where he's coming from. And in that, he's quoted his stats. There are 800 acres of macadamia nuts.
Oh, 800. Okay.
800. Yeah, and it takes up. It's a third of the macadamia nuts grown in Hawaii is their farm. They're a third of all the macadamias, so they're a large operation, you know.
Yeah.
And
okay, I didn't want. Oh, well, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, you know, it's kind of ironic that I'm saying I can't go or I can't really afford to go, because the whole thing is about having, you know, saving money and being able to. I think he's got their input costs down to under $200 an acre, maybe even under $100 an acre, which is huge, you know, for.
Well, I think the biggest thing I liked about it was not only do you learn something that's going to be real valuable as a grower and a farmer, you're going to get a certificate that allows you to run classes back at home, and so to spread the KNF, you know, system around to other people and be certified so that, you know, they learn in the right way. I think that's great. As we always talking about, certification goes a long way when you're trying to teach something, and you know,
it really does. I mean, it really does, because you know. Compost tea is a good word, you know, good thing to talk about. It's like, what compost tea is such a wide variety of things, you know, just in terms of, you know, educating people and talking about things, and what one person thinks is a compost tea that's going to work, it really probably isn't, you know, and there's just a lot of information out there, and most of it's bad information, and people are operating under those, you know. So I think certifications are cool. I agree. I'm just agreeing with you, you know, that it kind of holds some legitimacy to things.
Sure. Well, so it looks like Steve got his internet figured out. And Steve, would you like us to give you the show back so you can start your topics? of tonight.
Oh yeah, I think I'm like yeah. Sorry about that. I'm having issues here.
Sound good. Yeah.
The crash or both streams, at least for me, crashed. I'm pretty sure it crashed over on Weed TV for a second. So if you're watching over there, I do apologize. It should all be up and running in better quality now. For whatever reason, Chrome just crashed out, and it's a part of our streaming rig. So yeah, so I thought it would be cool to talk about what kind of veggies y'all grow in aquaponics, and I can talk about the different stuff that I've grown and maybe tips and tricks for different kinds of veggies. We haven't really done. It's been quite a while since we've done kind of a vegetable show, and a lot of people are really getting into their vegetables, especially their aquaponic systems this time of year. I thought it'd be kind of cool to go over. So
that's cool too, because we got Marty here, and he's a great person to have on this show tonight. The co-founder Marty is in the house.
Hey, what's up, Roger? How's it going?
It's good. We're going great. We're having fun so far, and trying to get the kinks out.
Yeah, it's not a show until Steve's stream crashes at least once.
Yeah.
No, it's been a while since I've crashed.
I'm just kidding, Steve. I'm gonna see if last.
When I was in Jamaica, I was crashing all the time, though. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, transcontinental internet. What are you gonna do? So, anyway, I'm gonna see if I can get Hangouts to work on my phone. I tried to do it on the last show, not last week because we didn't have one, but the week before, and it just crashed as soon as I opened it. So I'll see if I can get that to work, and then we can go check out some of the veggies I'm growing out there.
Oh, cool. So, anyway, welcome back, Marty. And I'm sorry to interrupt again, Steve, but I saw Marty jump in, and I thought we should acknowledge my man.
Looks like Josh is showing some stuff.
It's not much, but it's starting to move. You can see, you can't really see, but there's the tomato plants are small ones down there, and then the big bolty ones are the cilantro. And a little bit of lettuce. And then some of my peppers are down here, and strawberries over here. And then my fish tanks there's my res right down there. Sorry, I'm just kind of hanging out on the deck, but my fish tanks are down here underneath, and there's another two beds down there of lettuce. It's a little bit of less light, so a little bit less light.
So you think your cilantro is bolting?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, just about the time the tomatoes are starting to move, the cilantro was bolting. So
yeah, June. Yeah. Why don't you explain that to people? I know we got a lot of experts listening to the show, and we know what. Why don't you explain to them what's up with?
It's a heat thing. You know, like I think I was joking with you guys off air a couple weeks ago. I'm horrible at growing cilantro, but bolting in general with leafy greens is, as they really want to grow in the fall and in the spring. In the summer when it gets too hot, it's their time to produce seed. So we call it bolting, where they send up flowers and make seed. And so that's what they're doing right now. And that's why they're so tall. They're sending up flowers to make seed.
And I'm sure cilantro is just like lettuce. If it starts to bolt, it starts to get bitter for the taste. So you're done eating that plant for the year.
I was curious about that, myself, because yes, that's true with lettuce and those things. But I've been kind of clipping it off the last couple of days, and it tastes pretty good. I mean, it tastes
still good.
Yeah. I haven't, nothing that I wouldn't eat.
That's why I wanted to bring it up in the first place, to find out what you thought about the taste of that now that it's bolting.
I kind of like it better, to be honest. I'm kind of particular about cilantro. When I was doing microgreens, I went through and would test 5 to 10 varieties of everything, mustard and cilantro was one of my favorites to do the taste test on. And I realized that most of the common varieties that are being produced are not that flavorful. So I'm actually finding a little bit more appetizing flavors in the bolted version of this. A little bit more of that soapy kind of flavor that people talk about, if that makes sense,
Well, doesn't it produce, when you break it, it produces you would see, if for anybody out there wanted to check it, you would break a leaf and it would have a milky, like milky instead of clear, So that's all right. Interesting.
That's my.
Well, I do have it. I can turn you on to a nice cilantro if you want. I'll send you some seeds. I got a whole bunch.
Yeah, no, I'd totally be interested. The one I found that I really liked so far is called Pokey Joe from a company up here in Bellingham area.
Yeah, the seed company I use is
Basing on
Johnny.
the name of the company right now, but they're up here in Bellingham.
Yeah, I use Johnny's, and they're up in the north too, so it might work out for you.
Yeah, they're in Corvallis.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's most people use Baker Creek seeds or Johnny seeds.
Yeah, I love them.
I've definitely used a lot of Johnny's. When I was doing vegetable production, I really was trying to narrow to sell to chefs and find those very unique varieties that would stand out to a chef.
Yeah.
So I was end up going with companies that were doing strictly heirloom. Like one I like is High Mowing. That's kind of been coming online the last 5-6 years. They're in the East Coast, and then Uprising. That's the one here in Bellingham. I fucking love Uprising. They're a small company, just a husband and wife team, and they grow some amazing seed.
Mm-hmm. That's always nice. I think that's what I liked about Johnny's. When you talk about experimentation, they've got so many different of each strain or cultivar. There's so many different choices, and you can look it up and research, and you can find regions they'll be good in, or zones for those of you out there where you get zone 7, 8, or 9. I think is all in the United States. And they'll tell you how it does for zones, and they just have a big thing. Yeah, in fact, there's a good guest. Would have been great for tonight if we could have got one of the representatives from Johnny's to come on. As it said, maybe we should try that some night. That
would be cool. And the guy from Territorial too is got a lot of information to drop on minerals. He's one of the mineral guys, and he's got a cool story. I heard him talk on Tad Hussey's podcast. What is it called? The Science of Cannabis Cultivation podcast.
I forget what. Isn't it
I can't remember
the Organics or something like that? Yeah,
the founder of Territorial in Oregon, but he had a really interesting story on how he kind of like had his aha moment on mineralization, and be a fun guy to talk to.
No, there you go. Future plans. So. We dropped Marty for a second, but I'm sure he'll be back. He's trying to get out so he can show us some of his aquaponic vegetables.
I've heard it today.
Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
No, my internet's being weird. I don't know why today. I have nothing running on my computer.
Do you think there's a show going out?
I'm not really sure what's going on as to why it's acting up. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out.
No, I just wonder, do you think it's broadcast?
What's up?
You think it's broadcasting?
Oh, no, it's broadcasting fine.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I was going to check.
At least my voice is. I think the video is getting fucked up sometimes.
Okay. All right. Well, we're good then. I mean, at least it's broadcasting and recording. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what other kinds of vegetables do you grow, Roger?
Well, I primarily grow peppers. I grow a bunch of tomatoes and cucumbers too. I've really gotten into the growing of mostly for myself and like the community, where I grow things you'd make a salad with. I try to grow everything you'd make a good, healthy salad with. And then I haven't got into it, but I'd like to get in some different interesting things because you can grow them here with some success if you find the right cultivar. I want to find some citrus plants of some sort I'd like to grow. I haven't been able to get in that. And but I'm a big pepper nut. I love to cook, so I think the best pepper in the world is a habanero. You have to learn how to use it, and there's several different ways to use it. You can have it scorching hot, or you can have it just give you the best flavor of all. But I didn't find a lot of necessity for peppers here in the Carolinas, even though regionally I could sell to Whole Foods, and I could do pretty well like that. Was at a small farm, I found that trying to grow peppers was not cost effective for me. Because you just don't get enough yield. You have to have a monstrous size grow facility, whether it be indoor, outdoor, or whatever, to actually make any money off of peppers, even when you're getting a premium price compared to what most people are getting per pound for produce. And then I've always wanted to do what Josh used to do. I am going to be going. I'm trying to. I'm clearing the land. We're clearing parts of our yard that I'm going to turn into the fish house, where I'm going to start my first aquaponics operation. And then I'm going to do what Josh did and attempt to build a business around providing restaurants with growing live microgreens and lettuce and stuff like that. You know, baby lettuce, you know, bok choy, or whatever. There's all kinds of choys out there. You know, you guys, I'd say something. You guys recommended another one, probably just the smaller ones, and they love the white cucumbers. You know, stuff like that. I think that's where I'm going to be heading and experiment with that, because all I have to do is call up. You know, well, the state has a program, so I can actually get a list of all the restaurants that participate in the program. So that's where I'm heading. So that's what I'd like to do anyway. I like to grow pumpkins, but I never seem to get them going in time, or I have problems. I had problems last year. I never got my pumpkins going, so it's probably too late. I probably could grow a few pumpkins, but nothing big, gigantic. Speaking of gigantic pumpkins, I segue to Steve.
Yeah, I got. Oh, actually, I was gonna say Mr. Green Jeans is rocking in his garden. Do you wanna?
Yeah, hell yeah. Can't tell.
Yeah. Actually, all that I do have some vegetables going, but they're all up in San Pedro. At the other one we're talking about, and because I got a lot of I think I get up bananas and everything, man. It's crazy. It's a jungle around here.
You're in a good spot now.
It's a Valencia orange.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a really old. It's a 20-year-old Valencia orange that I've been growing in a container for 25, maybe almost 30 years old. Look at its roots.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not really a bonsai, but it's just a crazy tree. I got about 5 or 6 really old citrus trees that
That's funny. I mentioned I really want to start some, and you're going to take us to citrus trees. So that's cool.
Not you know, a lime or lemon that I grew from a seed when I was in Massachusetts when I was a child. Behind when I moved to California, bring citrus into. I should have smuggled it, but no. Oops, did I say that? And
allegedly.
Allegedly, exactly. Oh, my Myers lemon is he's happy. That's another 20-year-old. It's just pretty shady here. I've got to move them up to San Pedro because the bananas got really huge. That's an ice cream banana, blue Java. This is the tree you're looking up into. Organic fig tree. Oh, check this out. Anyone want a jade plant growing out of a shoe? Wait, can you see it?
That's all right.
Yeah, let's see it. There, how's that? A sneaky plant growing out of a big old one. Not exactly a vegetable, but it proves that I have pretty much a vegetable in my brain. Yo, there's some green jeans garden out here. These are really nice. This guava tree it's one of those Indian guavas, makes this really wonderful green guavas. And this one growing right next to it is one that a Mexican American friend of mine, really nice, a pink fleshed kind. Amazing. Very little water out here. Some of the things like the bananas and the guavas, I'm pretty stingy. And I had that actually managed to keep my passion vine alive a really long time. This one lasted about 8 years. The one before that, I think I overwatered it, and it lived about 3 or 4 years now. And so
I love that about certain species where you get them and they just keep coming back every year, no matter if you do anything to them or not. You know.
Apparently, I had the audio is jacked up on the Weed TV stream. It should be fixed now. I do apologize, guys.
So we were blowing their doors off wall to wall, huh?
No, there was. I don't think there was any volume.
Oh, no volume.
When I rebooted it, it was muted for whatever reason.
What are we looking at there, Marty? I see a hot plant, and I can't tell what this other one is on the left.
Oh, it's me. Those are mine. Oh,
I didn't hear you too well, but this is an elderberry bush right here on the left.
Oh, there.
You can see.
I can hear the water running.
Yeah, it's going. It's a little windy too, so
I
sorry to show a little noise. There's some flowers out still.
There we go.
And I would say it's, maybe 10 feet tall or so, something like that. Off the ground, probably, 6 feet out of the dual root zone there.
Wow.
And lots of berries. This was, I put this cut in, it was just a single cut in last year in like early April.
Wow. So that's like a 14-month-old tree.
Yeah, so it stayed in the outdoor aquaponic system and overwintered. And then most of this tall stuff you see all grew this year, though. So like all the tall stuff is all brand new. You can tell by the different kind of shoots. Yeah, they're different color. You can tell the ones that have wintered over.
And you said that was a cutting, right?
Yeah, this was a cut I got from the local co-op, and it was about maybe 2 feet tall, and it just comes as a stick in some dirt. That's it.
Same as you get grapes. Yeah.
Yeah, actually the same thing. This grape was put in at the same time. You can see we definitely lost some. We had a really bad windstorm here a little while ago, so we lost some of the fruit off, but it's definitely putting out.
Pretty cool.
Now, did you cover that greenhouse thing, or was it open air? Did you shut down the system for the winter, or keep it running?
No, I kept it cycling all the time, so it would never completely freeze. It did completely freeze over a couple of times, and when that happens, I basically, you can obviously I know it's going to happen, so I just I unplug it. And then once it warms up a little bit, I'll plug it back in. So maybe for like 2 or 3 days, it was unplugged. And I take out like obviously all the like tomatoes and stuff I put in. Here you can check out the black ones. These are pretty cool, or blue or purple or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, man.
But anyways, I put these in. Obviously, they don't overwinter, but the grape and the elderberry both stayed in there, and they go dormant in the wintertime anyway, naturally. So. They survived and are doing fine, as you can tell.
Very cool.
Yeah, the reason I asked if it was a cutting is if you grew up from seed, it wouldn't bear fruit that fast in a year or two, a couple of years.
Yeah, and they even on this they said even on a cutting that you shouldn't expect to get fruit for 2 years. But I got fruit last year. And as you can see, I got plenty this year.
Yeah, it's the same way as when I did grapes. It's the same way. You always get a little bit. It just gets better as it gets mature. That's all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen, because I have some that I like just a normal grape I have over here in the ground, and it didn't really put out anything. So I definitely noticed a difference in it seems like increased fruit in aquaponics versus in the ground. Or even in sips. I have some sips going over here too. They're on the other side of the fence, but this is a orange bell pepper, I think, and more tomatoes. That was my daughter's science experiment. My wife's flowers. Screw that shit. I don't grow ornamental shit. But another bell pepper, and then this is a big old tomato.
Oh, you'll have a nice fall. You'll have a nice fall yield that does plant.
Yeah, that won't be bad at all. And these peppers are looking pretty good too. We'll see. I might pull off if a couple of the first ones. I find they get kind of stunted if you let them fruit too early. So
right, you can always take them. It just builds the plant up stronger for a foundation to hold the other fruit.
Right.
Well, the other thing is swazing works really good with peppers. If you strip the foliage pretty heavy on them, it'll negate that.
Cool.
I taught mine like cannabis plants, and
Not a lot of people do that, but I've had pretty good success topping them early on.
Well, see, I don't like that because that means they're not going to grow. I like to grow mine into a vine, so that wouldn't top them. It won't grow in a vine unless you grow a sucker out.
Well, that's one of the great things about if you are in a less than legal state and you want to practice. You know, peppers are a great allegory plant to work with, to get you used to all the techniques will work very similarly to a pepper plant, and you know, getting your cow mag and your potassium dialed in and everything, very similar.
Definitely, yep. And they don't fall back at tomatoes, but peppers are a little closer to what we would use for a formula for cannabis and flour than you would necessarily use, because peppers require more potassium than tomatoes do.
Yeah, if you give tomato that amount, the tomato will just be almost like crumbling under its own weight and fruit, because that much potassium just makes them force fruits them.
Steve, what are your, just a random thought here, what are your thoughts on, you're obviously real big on the dual root zone.
Yep.
I'm doing tomatoes here straight in media beds, and
Yep.
I've had good success. I've never done a dual root zone tomato. What do you got to say?
Yep. So I've actually done side-by-sides, and I've shown the pictures on here. And I think I did in one of the presentations too, that I put up at one of the conferences, the side-by-sides where you have tomatoes in the media beds and the root size of the root system versus when they're in a dual root zone, and it's like 6 times larger. So when we did side-by-sides at Sylvia's lab, on average, they averaged about 44% more flowers and 38% more fruit, and would have fruit that was ripe 2 weeks earlier. So
cool. Okay.
But again,
I think
you can totally grow them without a dual root zone. Don't get me wrong. It just won't produce. You don't have the option of, like, you know, boosting the nutrients if you want to, and really, you know, keeping it cranking.
Well, I wonder, like, just in my experience, in my situations, I always, when I put high feeding plants in the media beds, they take a long time to get adjusted and get ready. But once they're like moving, they jam. Like, they're so fast, but it takes longer. And I think that overall, I'm faster in soil. You know, if I don't have to deal with that lag, so maybe that's part of it.
Yep. Yeah, that'll definitely. With they tend to do. They'll grow a little bit slow with the dual root zone in the beginning, and then as soon as they hit that layer and they fall, I know. Especially with,
we lost you.
All of a sudden they just skyrocket. All of a sudden it's just kind of crazy.
All right, Marty, tell us what you're showing us.
So this is my front porch system. This is sort of like the, I don't know, we call it the salad bar, but right now I don't really have any salad in it. It's kind of too hot this time of year to really, I just took all the greens out of it. I did put, or actually I should say my wife put celery in here. I think that's what that is. And so that one is just one we bought from the store, and cut it off and you put it back in and resprout it. They're good for a few good grows. And this is lemon cucumber in a dual root zone pot. And pretty soon when this gets longer, it's going to start going down the porch that way. And this is a big peppermint plant that I probably couldn't kill if I wanted to. And then it's wrapped itself around this raspberry bush, which is throwing out more. And I'm kind of training it down that way. And there's some raspberries on there. The other strawberries from my daughter's science experiment we talked about before. This is a big, what is this, parsley and pear tomato. So there you go.
Interesting. You got some big raspberries.
Yeah, they're not bad. These early ones are usually only get a few of them, and then later in the year I'll get a bigger harvest of them. So you'll see, like, there's other sprouts coming out here. So yeah, that'll be cool. This raspberry's taken like so much abuse. It's been in a number of different systems, and I cut it, pretty much all the way down, and it lived in a pot just on the porch here for like an entire winter. And I thought it was dead, and it just started sprouting again in the spring, so I replanted it. So it's seen a lot of torture, but it's definitely doing pretty good. I've taken cuts off of it. There's a cut off of it that I just cut off one of these shoots that still had roots on it and planted it out back, and it's growing out there through some raspberries also. So that's pretty cool. And then the lemon cucumbers, these are looking pretty good, and excited for those. Some of my favorites. For sure.
Do you clone in the system, or do you take cuttings and put them in the media bed, or what do you do?
Well, on this one for the raspberry, all I did was grab one of these shoots that still had roots on it. So I would just take one of these and I just separated it out from the main root ball and replanted it. So ghetto cutting, I guess. I don't know if you could just take a cutting and root it, but that's how I do cloning for cannabis. And is I just take cuttings and put them in there. Or tomato suckers, you can do the same thing. Just pull off the sucker.
We do the same thing. We use the perlite filled poly bags, and you can just take a sucker, whether it be a cucumber or a tomato, and just stick it, or even a pepper, a sucker, you can just stick it down in the medium and root it right there.
Yeah, I would imagine you could. I've never done it, but I don't know about raspberries either. But I know that you can take the cut off. So I would imagine you could. I could try it at some point to see if it works. But I know, like I said, I've done lots of other cuttings in aquaponics or clones in aquaponics. Lots of cannabis clones. It works really, really well. And unless you have like a ton of solids build up, you're going to get roots pretty quick.
Yeah, good point. If you're trying to clone in hydroton or a system like that, it'd be nice to put it in its own space, maybe even like in a net pot where it's got its own fresh hydroton too, where you washed it off at least, to get the salt buildup off of it. Or, in your case, yeah. Because we've done experiments with bubblers, and they works with cannabis. You can take a cutting and stick it right in a 3 and whatever net pot you use filled with hydroton. Put it in the bubbler. As long as that bubbler is keeping your hydroton wet, it'll root and grow right there in the system, right there like that. No problem.
Cool.
Sweet.
Mr. Jeans was showing us some other stuff too, and
you were showing us some other plants. Yeah.
And he's back in his.
Yeah, you're showing us some other plants. Yeah, quick. Switch back to where you were. No,
run!
Austin, run!
Was a male plant, was it?
We got it back inside. Sorry, buddy. What was that you were showing while you're walking? What was that you were getting ready to show us?
I don't know. I just
on the ground. It was like little red circles, little red
dots. While we're waiting on everybody to get to where they need to be, Ouroboros Farms this weekend. I'm teaching a aquaponic cannabis class this weekend. If anyone's in town and looking to get some rockin' education, to be sure to check it out.
And where is that going to be, Steve?
That'll be at Ouroboros Farms, and you can check out information at ouroborosfarms.com, and that's in Half Moon Bay, California.
There you go, folks. That's the learning place. That's the learning place right there.
And you can check it out. We have a long list of classes coming up for the rest of the year. We have all the schedule through December up, so be sure to check it out over there at ouroborosfarms.com. We will be adding a few more farm to table and CBD farm to table dinners as well that we're still adding to the schedule.
I got a question. When you go to one of these classes, do you just go to the class and hang out and do whatever, and maybe your meet and greet later, or do you get any access to the farm to see Ouroboros, or because it's a cannabis class, you don't get to go out into the farm? Or I know you got to limit people, because for those out there, sometimes when we tell you we don't want you to go in a greenhouse, it's because you could bring something in, some disease from your own garden.
Oh, no. So we actually host the class at Ouroboros Farms. We have a classroom. We actually tour the working commercial farm. You get to check out the filtration. You get to check out the fish. You get to check out a whole bunch of different types of plants. All of which are thriving and kicking butt, and all the different ways we generate nutrients and all the different things going on. So it's really a cool experience.
So it's a roving class where you're going around the farm to get to see the operation. Is what I.
Well, yeah. So we spend a lot of it in the classroom, and then we we'll go over a lot of things in person as they're running.
Is there blue Java bananas or ice cream? Super delicious. They're like oh, there's a couple. There's another one up there. Another bunch way up there. You can see I don't give my bananas hardly any water. I'm going to give them a little.
You got a hell of a jungle.
How's the humidity up there?
Humidity right now is pretty high, but it's going to be pretty all days. It's been high enough to hold the spider mites off.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what you need for bananas, so that's good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they don't get much water. Bananas are really water hogs, but luckily the soil will hold digging it so much over the years.
A lot of bananas will take kind of salty. A lot of bananas will take saltier water though.
They'll take what?
They'll take
salty air. Yeah,
saltier water
than normal. What we got here. Oh yeah, that's a good point.
They don't mind. They don't. Bananas in particular, bananas and coconut trees both don't mind salt as much.
Yeah. Well, I also give them my extra dishwater and stuff like that. They love.
Right. You got a gray water system. Nice.
You don't really get enough water. A lot of times their leaves are falling off, but they still produce bananas. These like. I used to have some burrow bananas, but they were giant. I just had to cut them out. Because this yard's only about like, I don't know, 20 by 20. Looks like a jungle, but it's actually a teeny little joint.
I figured it out because you keep spinning in circles, so that's why it looks like you're in a jungle. It looks like you like you ate a mushroom and you're running.
I'm just turning around. I know. It's so funny. I guess look at these amazing. My friends, and I can't even find it in any of the books. It's from
You need a breadfruit. You need a breadfruit tree.
It's not like
You need a breadfruit tree. So
what's that? I can't hear
you. He said a breadfruit tree. He said you need a breadfruit tree.
Or sugar apple. Or custard apple.
I do. I have a little tiny seed.
Hey, Mr. Green Jeans, I think you should stand still when you're out there.
That was bad. I can't shoot my computer.
Yeah, your Wi-Fi.
Roger?
You're too far from your internet. Your sound's not coming through, Mr. Green Jeans.
Yeah. Let me see. How's that? Whoa.
You talked about psychedelic stuff earlier. That was psychedelic.
Yeah, it was psychedelic. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sorry about that. A little bit of a skip there. Yeah, Mr. Green Jeans, thank you for the awesome tour. You had some other plants that you were potted up?
Some other plants that I potted up that some cannabis plants?
Yeah, you had some earlier.
Or
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was planning to bring those along with me, bring some of them along with me. If you're talking about those, or the other ones that you just saw that I was sweeping across when I was showing the video. Is that what you're talking about? These ones I got outside.
No, I didn't even notice those. They blend in.
Oh yeah, they blend right in exactly. I know. But yeah. Oh, that was the other one I was showing really close up. I think it was a male plant, right? Huh? Yeah, it's a really nice. He's a cross between. He's got some island sweet skunk in him, and some blue dream, and some blackberry kush. And
Ooh.
it's just a cool male plant that I was progeny testing using, trying to cross him into some other plants to see what happens. And, see what I was just showing the. But I wanted to show a thing about collecting, but he's not dropping right now. And actually, I did have a plant this afternoon when I first showed up, and I collected all the pollen off of that. And then I realized, and then I chopped it, and then I realized, oh shit, I realized I should have saved.
As long as you freeze it, put it.
What's that? What'd you say?
As long as you freeze it, it's okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I collected it and I got it in a plastic thing and tight container, and I put in some grains of rice that I had heated up really hot in the microwave till they supposedly pretty dry. Try to drive the moisture out of them, and just threw a couple of those in there with them.
That's what you were saying. You ended up getting it. You harvested it all, and it was too humid, and you got it all real moist and sticky. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, you got to make sure it's really dry before you.
Right.
You got to make sure it's really dry before you freeze it, or even store it. It won't store if it's moist. And one of the things is a lot of times the little flowers will fall in. You really want to pick out all the little flowers, and maybe not have too much of it. I think it's probably better to store smaller quantities. I think even if it's kind of thick. I remember I had one time an entire glass full of pollen, male pollen from a cannabis plant. This was years ago. It's probably in my late teens. It was early outdoor, experiment growing outdoors, and a glass full of pollen. And it's amazing. It's like so. I guess the pollen balls are very round, and when you stick your finger into it, you can barely feel any resistance at all. It just goes in like the softest, lightest flower in the world. Like, I guess there's like a lot of little ball bearings or something like that. That's what a jar of cannabis pollen feels like, or at least this one did. I don't know if there even could be genetic differences.
No, it's funny in like the Caribbean. They actually call pollen, pollen is what they call keef. And they were telling me, like, do you want pollen? And I'm like, why would I want pollen? Let me see it. And then I showed it to me, and I'm like, this is what we call keef. And there was this whole big misunderstanding because, like, you wouldn't really want to put pollen on a bowl to smoke, but you definitely want to put keef,
Yeah. I don't think the pollen will get you very stoned.
So it's interesting. Certain strains have higher CBD and higher THC. The problem is that you get very little yield per plant. But some of them have extremely high percentages. There's a couple of studies out there I've read on that, actually, and some of the different compounds actually produce more in the males. But again, it's just not commercially viable because their biomass is so tiny compared to the females.
Yeah. Well, I've always had the theory that this is why it's really important to use, why males, too important to select males, as we were talking about before, because they are often the most extreme plant in the grow. The male is probably, it's hard to test for it, but I would assume that one of the males could possibly be the most potent plant in the grow, do you know what I mean? Or he's going to influence that, you know what I mean? You can't exactly smoke him and figure out whether he is. But I think there's a very good chance that one of the males is literally better than what you think is the best female. You know what I mean?
Do you want to talk more about that? Because that's like something I'm going through right now. I have all these males I'm pulling out and I'm keeping them, but I'm not really sure how to think about them. To be honest, I'm a noob.
It's the coolest question, man. Steve asked me a couple of months ago. Sorry,
I was going to say save the pollen and preserve it, because then you can do it. So, and then Mr. Green Jeans, please take the floor.
Well, I'm keeping all the males, and I'm keeping them all until someone tells me what to do with them.
Yeah, I mean the thing is to You know, it is the most incredible. It's such the coolest question. I think it's one of the best reasons also to have a large selection is because then you can make correlations, I think, between the males and the females. Like you can say this one, you know, not exactly like twins, but you can see, just as you can see the females grouping into various, as we might say, phenotypes, but it's not really hard like, you know, most all traits, cannabis traits that we even observe are pretty much variably expressed. So you're going to kind of do your sorting as your own, but there's really nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? So you're just sort of trying to make relationships between plants and say, hey, look, these ones all have this kind of structure, you know, and those ones. And the more you do that, the more you'll see that the males fall into some patterns along with the female, right? And that's one of the good reasons to have a large enough selection to be able to make those observations, right?
That's really the big
Yep.
deal is having the selection.
It is then of course then obviously the things that you can select for, that you can see the structural things and the plants are really vigorous, and you know, and particularly if that's a rare trait, you know, if if a lot of the other plants seem kind of wimpy or whatever, or needy or whatever, then the really strong male who grows aggressively, you know, looks a lot better. Do you know what I mean? It depends on the rest of the seed batch as well. You know, so but I think it's very common for males to be outstanding in some kind of way once we really start looking at them closely. So it's pretty common to find these kind of outstanding males, and I think it's a natural thing too. Like people have been breeding a long time. That's why they start paying more attention to the males, because they start noticing that sometimes these really extreme plants are males. You know, like whoa.
Well, for instance, one thing I noticed when I was living in Jamaica is that if you plant a whole bunch of seeds all together at once, and the males will 98% of the time will be significantly taller than the females by week 3 or 4.
Yeah, they are. And
I gotta say something about that that's funny. I'm not going to dispute that, because I mean, let's face it. If you were on the plantation in Jamaica, you saw shitloads of them. So I really don't want to dispute that. But you know what drives me crazy is every time I think that's the case, it's not the case. Every time I think, oh, that giant plant male, it turns out to be a damn female. I mean,
that was more with the seed batch that Steve was looking at was more likely to be an actual strain of outdoor, you know, Jamaican cannabis, I think. And so then you're not looking at as much variability as you might see if you had seen some kind of recent crosses, which could throw some big plants and some short plants, regardless of their sexes. And then you know what I'm saying? Whereas
so you're saying that genetics are not as...
He was probably looking at some Jamaican lamb's breath that was, you know, fucking...
Yeah, but
that's so funny. I did that to a Jamaican lamb's breath. Like maybe one of the only 2 plants I misidentified and killed, and found out later what one of them was lamb's breath.
Well, I'm just saying, I just off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of a nice old Jamaican strain, you know.
And I tore down the aquaponics.
Rainbow Kush.
And put it on
the
porch. I was just going to compost it. And of course, I got lazy. And so, like, maybe like 2 weeks later, I walk over there and it's like all budded up, little tiny frosty buds. And yeah, just kind of kicking myself for that one. It still turned out good even after I tore it out and replanted it. I mean, little tiny buds, but still, like, it definitely, I mean, it was one of the fastest growing plants. That's one of the reasons I thought it was a male, because it just took off. So yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that one.
So what I wanted to get back to Mr. Green Jeans, I wanted to clarify that what you're saying is if the strain's not as diluted, or has, you know, it's not such a comprehensive hybrid or something, it's more likely that the males are the dominant plant.
Well, I just mean what how much variability there is in that particular seed batch. And variability can be brought out by a lot of different things. And sameness,
Yeah.
you can have a seed
know
batch
what?
that's amazingly consistent and it's a double hybrid, you know what I mean? Or
You
you
know what
can
I
not
just,
realized? You know what I noticed
saying
causes a lot of. One thing I've noticed causes a lot of phenome variation is sodium. If you have high sodium levels, it seems to cause a lot of phenome variation, particularly in lettuce. If you ever go to like a lettuce grow, I see this once in a while doing consulting, um, and all of a sudden they have like a red lettuce or a green lettuce or
Yeah, it turns colors.
something. All of a sudden, one or two of them are just way bigger than the rest, or the color is off, and you're always going to get one or two of them naturally. Like a couple of them across a few hundred or thousand plants is totally normal. But if you all of a sudden see a bunch of them, there's a good chance it could be magnesium or sodium. Those two I've seen a lot of times. In particular, will cause a lot of phenome variation in lettuce, and I would suspect probably in other plants as well. If not, if you had a certain nutrient
try that.
deficiency, could cause an increase in phenome variation.
Well, I wasn't talking about the double hybrid or that. I was talking about, we were talking about the males, how you said 90% of them are that grow bigger, in a grow like that. And then Mr. Green Jeans explained that that's probably more of a stable strain. Well, I like to call it stable. We've had debates about that, but more of a stable, indigenous, stable strain than some of the hybrids we get. So, which is what explains why every time I think I got a big male, when I do grow regulars, which I don't do much anymore, but when I grow regulars and I get a big giant plant that's outgrown the others, every time I think it's a male, it's a female. Every time, so I mean, not every time, but pretty much, so that's what I'm saying. It explains it. You're talking about, well, in like Jamaica, where Steve is talking about his data, it's more of a stable, that's what they use, right? That they continually grow that strain over and over in that area instead of a bunch of hybridization. Am I wrong, or is that what you were saying?
I've heard of a strain where that you could actually tell, whether the males are females and males by the number of fingers that there are on the leaves at a certain number of tiers. And I actually believe that that's possible with some things, but like with the Durban poison, that's going to have just like 12 fingers on it or whatever. It's just, and then
oh yeah.
So you think that would be a genetic, like a like a strain specific thing?
So definitely, but I think that someone could. The story I heard. Yeah, the story I heard was with a California strain, an upstate, backwoods strain that a guy had been saving for years, and he was able to tell, you know what I mean, because that was his strain, and I believe it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I don't. But now, if you crossed in the Durban poison and all of a sudden started to select it with that, is what I'm saying, because every one of those by the second or third tier is going to have, I don't know, lots of fingers. You know what I mean? So that would throw a monkey wrench in the thing, is all I'm saying. But I think that
people have been debating too. That's interesting. People have been debating all about that with the fingers, and I get questions all the time. Why does this one have this many fingers and this one has this many fingers?
So that's a great one. So if you have light leaks and you're at nighttime, a lot of times that will cause the fingers. Or if you take a clone from a plant that's in flower from 2 to 4 weeks into flower, when it basically re-veggies, it will also cause weird funky flowers called monster cropping, and you can actually get ludicrous amounts of branches. Anyone that's taken my class, I have some pictures of some plants that I grew using that method. Excuse me. That'll be a really
super, or like not super cropping, but FHM or whatever. When you cut the top of the bud in such a way that it grows out.
Oh no! I'm talking about monster cropping. Monster cropping is so if I take the plant, put it into flower, and then take a clone from it in flower, 3 weeks into flower. That's what I'm talking about, and then rooting it again. What happens is you'll get about a 25 to 40% success rate with your clones.
Blah.
You might be able to get higher.
And they'll get a shit ton of branches. If you're trying to, if you're trying to produce,
you cut out. Can you back up?
Sure.
Start again on that.
Sure. So if you're trying to do a monster crop plant, what you want to do is, and let me know if I cut out again. My internet's been wonky tonight. So what you want to do for a monster crop plant is you want to take a clone off of a plant that's 3 weeks into flower, and you'll have a low success rate, maybe 40% or 25%. And what'll happen is most of them will die, but some of them will live. And what'll happen is they get a shit ton of branches. And what'll happen is that.
Go ahead. I want to tell you something. Because at that time they almost have to re-veg.
I was going to say you're re-vegging.
They have to take the why you fail. So, and you actually could have a better than 40%. But I agree with Steve. Expect to not succeed on a lot of them. But what happens is basically they're already flowered. And so what you have to do is they have to almost die and re-veg. And that's why you get all those sprouts coming out. I'm sorry, Steve. I just had to throw that in there.
Yep. No, it's true. So and you might get better than that. I want you to understand that you're going to have a lot of failure with those clones. Is kind of my point. But what'll happen is that you'll have a ton of branches on those plants. And what'll happen, especially if you're trying to scrog them and you're growing in like a closet or a small space, you can have a just shit fuck ton of branches growing in a really, really super dense plant and just nothing but nugs, like a whole sea of nugs all the way across a closet or a grow tent, out of 1 or 2 plants. I've done it a bunch of times in very small grow spaces and just, the absolute maximum amount that I could possibly grow in that tiny little space. And it is a weird trick to do. Not many people do it anymore, especially it's more of a small home grow kind of trick. It's not something you would really do in commercial because you have plenty of other options. But if you're a home grower, especially in a less than legal state, it does give you a great option to maximize your production.
We just use the hedge trimmer in commercial production to achieve the same thing.
Oh yeah, did you get Ed Rosenthal has his specialty cannabis hedge trimmers? Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. I was joking but serious. I mean, you just talk.
He did talk, yeah.
I wish I could.
I always like
tonight
to post that scene from Edward Scissorhands where he's just on the hedges.
Right.
That's the need to hire right there, man. Just get that shit done.
I wish I could show you more depth, but that pie hoe I've been showing you guys about, it's about 5 weeks in right now. And those plants have been in the bed since like November, and I've obviously topped the shit out of them. But it's like, oh fuck, there are so many nugs per area. I'm expecting a really good yield because of it. I'm just I'm 5 weeks in and just waiting for the swell to start happening. I'm pretty giddy about it. But I'm kind of realizing like that's probably a better deal for me in general would be to reach my canopy and then top the whole damn thing, give it a week and a half, and then flower it,
Yep.
Well, I have an
Edward Scissorhands is the way to go.
I got an interesting thing. My last generation of clones from this batch were acted like indicas almost when I flowered. When I blew out, they just grew in a bushy, beautiful connoisseur. Nice buds, all about the same size and all. I didn't do any super cropping or anything really. I'll squeeze a branch here and there if it starts to shoot out too high, but that's about it. And I had the really great quality, but I lost yield. But here's an interesting thing. The clones from them, the 3 that I got, are growing like sativas and stretching out with long, viney limbs. Now I did have the light a little bit higher.
What is your nitrogen? Because if you run high, if it's more sativa and you run your nitrogen a little high, they'll stretch a lot more.
I'm running the same system I've been running that's been growing them exact. I'm using the exact same measurements and all that.
Right. But certain strains, like every strain. That's one thing. I'm glad we brought this up. Every strain has its own nutrient requirements. Like fuck what the bottle says. Fuck what everything else says. Don't follow the bottle blindly. I can't stress that enough. Never, ever, ever, under any circumstance, follow the directions on the bottle like it's a Bible. always
place to start.
listen to your plants and look at what your plants are doing and how they react, and dial them up or dial them down. Most of the time, you will not actually dose a full dose regimen as what the bottle says. Most of the time, between half and 3/4 for most strains. It's only certain strains that really need that full dose. You know, if you have everything dialed in, they don't really need, you know, they should be able to work with the microbes in your system to unlock what you need. And
it's definitely true.
That's what I was
I
going to
think
add.
that
Well,
only,
Right, but there's ifs
particularly
and
for
wins.
aquaponics.
There's ifs and wins. Yeah, but that's aquaponics. Yeah. But I wanted to say,
I have
we
a
were
theory.
talking about
I have a
seedlings.
theory.
We're talking about clones. It's the clones are being grown in the same exact way and system with the same measurements of nutrients as the previous clones that are the same strain. So it's not like it's.
Did you monster crop those at all? Did you clone them in flower at all, or did you take them straight?
No, they were top. Basically, I top when, you know, like when the seedling grows up and it grows up, you know, if I top it, I'll usually clone the top. I'll clone the top when I top the plant, you know. And
are you're popping seeds and then topping, or you're saying clones?
I pop a seed. Plant grows into a, you know, into veg,
right.
You know, over, you know, anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. Then I top it and I root the top.
So all your clones are a different pheno then?
What, are you shooting bugs?
No. Right now, what I'm talking about is Strawberry Kush. Pretty much. I got a Blue Dream and 2 Strawberry Kush.
Okay.
I've been doing for like 3 or 4 grows. This is the 3rd or 4th generation. And all of a sudden I walked in there the other day. I'm not unhappy because I've got this, like, you know, like Steve said, a pepper plant or a tomato plant and it's just like boom, 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 bud sites, you know, later, you know, what do you call it? You call it, and now it's going to stack, right? Or that's, you know, right?
What are you doing? Are you trying to top with that gun? Is that the assault gun? What
you guys
so this is the latest in insect control. This is a
shotgun. Load that up with salt.
It's a shotgun that works on salt. Oh man, it is so much fun. You see a squash bug or a fly,
whichever.
Yeah, squash bug or a fly. You just shoot them in the face. You feel so much better.
Someone should start an Instagram page of that. You know, maybe someone has.
$1 laser sight on it. I was at Walmart looking at laser sights, seeing if I could put a laser sight on it and really like fuck around with it just for fun in the garden. But I just thought it was something fun. It was on sale at the hardware store the other day. So
I see those all over the place now. They're pretty cool. You just load them with salt. You know.
Oh yeah, it's called the bug assault. I think it's called. It's just something fun.
I got one for my son, so he can just run around and blast stuff. He wants to shoot everything anyway, so
yeah, it
works out.
You know, if you have a bunch of bugs in your garden and you got some young boys or even young girls, give them one of these. They'll help you.
Yeah.
I think was it Marty? You were the one doing the bounty in your garden, the slug bounty.
The what?
Didn't you do like a slug bounty or something with the kids, or a bug bounty or something?
Oh, bounty.
Probably. I probably did. I don't remember, but that sounds like me.
That's smart.
I have them. They go out and collect all the flowers and stuff for my flower power teas and stuff. They collect all the fruit for the ferments, make them fill up a bucket. I pay them though, you know, unfair wages, but I pay them.
The sweatshop ain't gonna run itself.
It's lessons in capitalism.
It's Trump's America now. Oh man.
What
So I've grown a bunch of different. I guess I'll go over my veggies. I've grown a bunch of different veggies, all different kinds of root crops, mostly in wicking beds or in cloth pots and media beds that had cocoa coir or some kind of mix of soil and cocoa that was kind of aerated or Pro Mix is pretty good as well. Just make sure you don't use the Pro Mix with yucca extract, or your fish are going to die pretty quickly. Yucca extract is super fish lethal. What are we growing right now? I got some monster giant carrots, competition carrots. I'm going to try and grow in the media bed, or not, wicking beds at the farm. Although they're not in the most aerated soil, so we'll see how big they get. Gotta change that a little bit around. What else do we have? Some kohlrabi, some radishes.
You cut out there for a second, Steve.
Oh, I have some onions, some beets, some kohlrabi, some radishes.
Nice.
I'm trying to think what else is growing. Walking stick cabbage. I've never grown walking stick cabbage before, so that'll be interesting to see how that grows. Supposedly, it's like supposed to get 10 feet tall before the end of the grow season, and be like a tall, giant collard green with a cabbage head at the top. I don't know if any of you guys have grown it.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, look pretty cool. Apparently, you can polish the sticks of them, and they make good walking sticks. It's like a dense wooded. I don't know. So it's supposed to be something kind of cool. So we'll see. We could pretty much grow them indefinitely in the aquaponic system. So we'll see how they grow.
Oh, hey, I have a question for you, Steve. Have you ever done a dual root zone in a, what do they call them, an air pot? You know, it has all those little holes in the side. You know, they're made of plastic. So
I haven't, but Tommy has. Tommy J.
Yeah. Somebody gave me one to try it out. They're like, because just one of my buddies, and he's seen my, like the elderberry bush and stuff, and he had a bunch of those. And I was like, hey, man, it'd be cool to do a root zone on one of those. He's like, yeah, dude, take it. I want to see what happens. So I have one of those, and I'm trying to decide what to put in it because I have to put it outside. It's freaking huge, so I can't really put it inside.
I have a thought on that, and you guys tell me because you have experience with the dual root zone. But my thoughts in terms of soil, coming from the soil aspect of it, the fabric pots suck, in my opinion.
No, it's not fabric.
For dual root zone, yes.
No, but this is why
the reason why for dual root zone is they don't. Part of the reason why dual root zone works is you have that seal with the plastic in the soil, right, and you get that diaphragm action, and it also with the water, it'll wick up around that and keep your soil layer too wet. So between those two issues, that's the reason why they don't work good for dual root zone in particular. But the air pots, I could see.
Yeah, I don't think that they work for living soil either. That was my point, for the same reason.
Yeah.
I would advise if you
waxy membrane on the outside
to make your dual root zone like mostly media, like just a very small soil layer at the top if you use cloth bags. And then that'll at least eliminate like the major wicking issues that Steve's talking about. If you get that down, like even to like halfway down the bag, you're going to wick soil up or wick water up to the soil, like no problem. But I did have some success. I think I grew a cucumber in it last year, lemon cucumber in one last year. And it did fine. It didn't do as well as the, in my opinion, I guess I didn't really have lemon cucumbers and other ones, but I did have other like a little watermelon and some other melon type stuff in regular, just the plastic pots. And I feel like they do work better than cloth pots. But if you have them and that's what you're going to use, I just advise you to use a lot more media than soil. So like 2/3 media, 1/3 soil.
And I'd like to say that as far as growing a plant in a cloth pot, I'd see no problem with that. Is using Pro Mix. I'm having very good success with anything I want. It's breathable. If you overwater it, it starts to leak out so that it doesn't allow it to be overwatered, really. So it's got its point, but not for dual root zone, just for conventional growing in a pot.
I agree with that. Because conventional growing, you need those dry out periods, right? And that helps a lot of folks get a lot of oxygen in there. But with a living soil, it doesn't work.
Right. I agree with that.
It doesn't work with the dual root zone. You need to trap that moisture all the way in there, and it needs to be even. Just think of the earth. That's what we're mimicking, and the earth doesn't have these dry outer pockets.
Being an experienced
flat Earth theory.
The fat Earth theory.
Yeah, the fat Earth theory.
Being an experienced commercial grower that's now getting into aquaponics, and I'm getting to look at what everybody's already figured out, like people on this panel, where they already have figured out so much. I would say as a conventional hydroponic grower, never use cloth pots in the dual root zone. Just, do it like Marty shows you to use. Basically buy good, sturdy plastic nursery pots. That's what I think.
That's definitely the best. And then just drill some holes in the bottom so you have more drainage. You get more roots through. You can actually do it if you you can not drill any holes if you don't want to, and you want to contain your roots more. If you're like, for instance, a cannabis plant where you're harvesting it every couple months, if you've got a good sized pot that's not going to get root bound in the time it takes to flower, then you can keep your roots pretty much contained inside the pot and just have your water level come up into the bottom of the pot where your media is in order to give it water and then pull it back out. So you can do it without drilling extra holes if you're not going to leave the plant in. But like that elderberry bush out there, if it didn't have extra holes and drainage in the bottom of its pot, then the roots would probably have split the pot in two by now in order to get out there. Because the roots are all the way through the bottom of that thing. They take up an entire half barrel. And I actually, in the springtime this year, I had to pull the drain apart. And I think I sent Steve a picture of it. It was like a 6-foot long thing of roots that I pulled out of my 2-inch drain pipe, which it had completely clogged. So
I got you one better. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen the pictures of the vertical. We had some 5-inch diameter vertical towers we built at Aquaponic Source. We actually had a tomato against the flow of water grow up vertically against the flow of water into a 1/2-inch pipe, into a manifold, into a 1-inch pipe, into an 1.5-inch pipe, and then down another like 6 feet all the way to the pump against the flow of water, which was completely insane. The craziest thing I've ever seen.
Pretty cool.
Have either of you two, Steve and Marty, done a white pot versus black pot comparison?
No, I think all pot lives matter.
I mean, I have a white pot and a black pot back there, but one's a grape and one's an elderberry. So it's not like, it's really like a side-by-side grow off or anything like that. But I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out a white pot's going to get less heat.
Cooler. Right.
And yeah, it's going to be cooler. So I think, just match it to your environment. Like, I think here where I'm at, it's going to get hot in the summertime a lot. So, the white pots are probably going to be better outside if you're dealing with heat. But if you're somewhere where it's cold a lot, you might want more of that heat. You might want a black pot to soak up more sunlight. So it just kind of depends on where you're at. But I would say that's the only real difference that I can imagine. I know people talk about sunlight getting in or not getting in, but for the most part, we want the roots to go down into the media bed anyway. So I don't really care what they do in that top layer because they're going to grow through it anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. No, I was thinking, because you have the constant temperature of the root zone, or the water, so that maybe that wouldn't make as much sense or difference versus like in a just total soil black pot above ground, getting super hot baked roots where you're cooling them down in the water.
I have something to add. When I grew in my greenhouse, I used the poly bags that are black, filled with perlite, and I worried about that at first. I was thinking, wow, do I want to get the white bags? And they were a lot more expensive. I went with the black bags because a lot of other people I knew had tried those. What I found in the end was after the plant grows and you really get into the heat of the summer, your foliage covers over the pot. So that whether it's black or white, I found it not to be an issue. Now, you guys are a little bit more outside and maybe exposed because you don't have a bunch of plants around you creating any shade at the ground. But in a big grow with rows and stuff, your foliage is going to be a shade cloth. I mean, the sun's not going to be heating up the black or white pot, in my opinion. But that's not good for everybody. If you're out like Marty's place where the sun can beam in from the side of a grow bed, then that would be a different answer. I think it's all about where you're at and what your environment and how many plants and whether you got foliage that covers the ground or not.
Yeah, one of the previous episodes, we had a conversation with BrayneGro about the temperature variance in dual root zone versus non-dual root zone, and that a plant that if you were concerned about it getting really cold outside in an outdoor aquaponic system, that a plant would be better protected in a dual root zone as opposed to just in a straight media bed with hydrogen, and that it would regulate the temperature better also. But on the other hand, you would get, if you wanted to induce, like say, purpling in a strain, you would be able to do it in a traditional aquaponic setup in just a media bed by cooling down the water more. And you could probably still do that in a dual root zone if you had enough root exposure to be able to do that. But I think if I remember correctly, I think he observed that he had one of them that changed color and one of them that didn't. And the dual root zone didn't, and the one in the aquaponic bed, just the media bed, showed more color change. So that's just more, I guess, temperature related stuff in terms of the dual root zone will allow you to control it better and regulate it more. But in some instances, it could be a good thing. So it really just depends on your environment. If it's getting really cold outside late in flower, you might want to have a dual root zone where it's more insulated. If it's really hot, you might want to make sure that your dual root zone isn't staying too wet for too long. And you might want to make sure to raise them up a little bit higher so that they can breathe a little bit more. So,
well, what's your thoughts on plastic mold?
What was that?
All of a sudden I've got an echo. I don't know why. I turned down and everything. What's your thoughts? Like, you see, I've noticed that you guys, when you go outside, one thing that could allow you to control that a little bit is like using like a band of plastic or plastic mulch that to cover your like a further insulation into what you're going. You got your hydroton bed where you ebb and flow, and then you got your dual root zone layer, which is soil or soilless, whatever. It's your microbiological layer, and then you could, to control temperatures, like when it gets cold in your area, you could put plastic mulch over the top, or plastic to insulate further over the dual root zone. Don't you think?
Sure, you can definitely cover them. And in the past, I've covered my sips, and the only reason my sips aren't covered right now is just because I've been too busy at work and gotten too lazy. So, and the same thing goes for the aquaponic beds. Normally, I have greens planted around so that it covers all the surface area of the bed and provides more shade, and therefore uses less water and regulates the temperature better as well. The shared root structure helps regulate the temperature also. So, there are other ways to do it. And so, again, just match it to your environment. If it's really hot, then I would probably suggest, doing the mat of greens, because they'll be able to breathe and, absorb sunlight and do a pretty good job of conserving water in a hot environment without, allowing too much root exposure.
So that goes back to what I was talking about with the foliage covering the pots earlier. It's kind of the same thing. So if you got this big bed of hydroton, it's in the sun's hitting it, it's baking. But if you got a bunch of little companion plants that are providing foliage and shade along it, because as the sun moves, all of it gets shade, so it allows for the temperature to be lower and all in that area. And so as opposed to plastic mulch, you just provide a bunch of little veggie plants, like
right. That's what I do. Obviously, you could
good idea,
plastic or do whatever.
Yeah.
And same principle though.
But you get food out of it, instead of just old plastic.
I do like to eat it. Yeah, we do get a lot of it. Like right now, we do have a lot of greens, but like I've said, I think a few different times, we love to chop up all the greens. Like right now, I'm gonna go replant the indoor, and I got the plans to do that. I just haven't done it. And my cover crop is totally overgrown. I've got huge spinach leaves and all kinds of like mustard lettuce and stuff. So I'm going to go cut it all down and throw it in the food processor and make butter cubes out of it. and just freeze it. And that's how we store the greens and start a new round.
Right. So what do you use when you use that cook? You just cut off a piece of it and throw it in a pot, and then
Yeah. So we put butter and so we food process all the greens together, so it's like a paste. We mix it with melted butter and then put it in ice cube trays. Then you put it in the freezer and freeze it into cubes. And then when you're cooking, you just throw in a butter and greens, and you can cook it along with just about anything. Chicken. Put it in rice. If you have a rice maker, it's really good to just throw that butter right in with it. Then you have butter and greens, right, mixed in with your rice. Cooks all at the same time. Works really well.
Cool. That's a little tip for all you.
That's a cool little. I was just that's inspiring. Like that would be a cool rabbit trail to go down someday. Food storage techniques. That's a cool one. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with all your microgreens, Josh.
A question in chat. Indica Dogo asks, "What's the best way to separate the layers in a lab serum?" You want to go over what you use?
The best way? I mean, I don't know about the best way, but I guess, you can go a couple of different routes. Like a bokashi bucket works really well. Anything that's got a drain on the bottom, in a way to take the curd off the top without disrupting the top layer. So personally, I like to go with, something that has a drain on the bottom. You could do like an iced tea jug. Although a lot of times they have plastic and it can get pretty acidic and eat the seal. I mean, you can get fermenting jugs, which are pretty nice. Also, they have drains on the bottom, glass versions of them, if you want to spend a little bit of money on it. But I would say probably, like a bokashi bucket or a iced tea jug that's got a good metal valve on the bottom, and would probably be my favorite. But you can use, you can really use a 5-gallon bucket if you want to. And then in terms of how you want to separate it, you want to drain all the liquid out of the bottom if possible and be able to separate the curd off the top so that you're left with mostly the serum that you want. If you can't do that and you just have like a 5-gallon bucket or whatever you want to use, then I would suggest that you use a turkey baster. And what you can do is either go down the side, you can poke a little hole through and go down the side so that you can suck the serum out of the middle. Because the layer that you want for the serum is in between the liquid at the bottom and the curd that's been separated at the top. And it'll be a pretty even layer because oil and water separate. So that's how you're inside that oil is where the labs are breeding and living. So that's the serum itself is that middle layer. So you want to figure out a way to get down there. I've seen people drill a hole in the curd with regular bit and then just go down with that to be able to do it. But for the most part, you can remove the curd and then let it resettle. Then it'll separate again because it's still just oil and water. So that's another option too. If you don't have a really good way to be able to separate it with the curd still on there, if you end up disturbing it and mixing it up, just leave it and let it settle for a while, and then you can use the turkey baster to get it off the top.
I found there's a pretty good tool. If you go to the pet store, they actually make a
syringe.
No, it's like a scooper designed for getting bearded dragon shit from sand, and you can basically it is really fine holes. It's almost like a screen for a window, and you can basically use that to sieve to scoop out the cheese off the top of it, and then you can separate that, and then you can much more easily separate the labs from the rest of the serum.
I was just say I used a syringe, like a meat. I have a syringe I used to inject into meat, marinade. But you can buy them at a feed store, a seed and feed store for $2 or $3, and they're the big long 3-inch. These big.
You can buy plastic hydroponic syringes that'll hold like 100 milliliters. So you can put a tube on the end of it and dip it in there, and you'd be able to draw it out like that.
I have a big glass siphon as well for brewing. I'll use sometimes if I'm doing a big batch, like a 20-gallon batch. I have this big. I forget what. There's a particular type of name for the siphon, but I could basically push it through and siphon whatever layer I want. pretty easily with a little hand pump, and it'll start siphoning. It's pretty nice. And then I have a turkey baster as well if I'm doing a 5-gallon batch. Kind of the easiest.
That's how I used to mix my when I first started out using General Hydroponics 3-part. That's what I used, because a 5-gallon bucket, if you stuck the turkey baster in the jug and went like that, that was 40 milliliters or 45 milliliters, shot it into the 5-gallon bucket every test. That was my first experience with turkey baster. But yeah, I think everybody that grows should have a turkey baster for sure.
Oh yeah.
And a sieve.
I've never used a turkey baster. I have a sieve for sure, but
you don't get as kinky as we do.
Well, it's a good way if you're mixing a large batch of something and you're adding something liquid, like this doesn't necessarily go with your aquaponics, but in the other, if you're mixing a solution for your conventional methods or a hydroponic situation, turkey baster comes in handy, because it's basically, like a full turkey baster is like 45 milliliters, I think, So it gives you it gives you a pretty much a measurement. It's real easy to measure any kind of liquid, anything you would add. Well, maybe you guys would use liquid iron. Well, you don't want a lot of iron with the fish. We know you don't want more than 3 ppm, but stuff like that.
I gotta give you shit on that, man. Because then you're mixing stuff unless you rinse it off real well, right? You're sticking this thing in there versus pouring off. In terms of sterile.
Oh, I use the same baster for every bottle.
Each bottle, okay.
Yeah, I have a one baster for a bottle, and then you go. So all you do is you go stick it in and you suck it up, and it's got measurement on the side. So instead of trying to measure for small growers, I'm talking about, even I didn't use it as much with my greenhouse. I'm talking about more in my small grow. When I started out, if you're going to be doing several gallons, you can take a turkey baster and stick it in there and pull it out instead of trying to pour into little tablespoons at a time. A turkey. That's what I'm saying. You can take a turkey baster and suck up,
Gotcha.
1, 2, 3, 4 whatever, how many tablespoons, or exactly the amount you need to mix to make your solution. And that could be even for, in aquaponics, I'm sure you guys have some things that I know some of you do use non-organic products where you might be mixing up a concentrate with water.
Well, I think they're such big enough. Yeah, I mean, that might be true, but I think they're such larger doses versus that's why, I apologize, because I wasn't even thinking about, people that are growing in tents, where you're mixing, 15,
no,
milliliters per whatever.
You're welcome to kick me in the butt anytime, man.
No, it's my
mistake for
not, being in that mindset. And, but, with aquaponics, I think in general, people are working in larger systems, for the most part. There's some people working some small systems, I guess.
Yeah, and then I do outside. I use cups. I use cup measurements outside. So yeah, you're right. Exactly, it's a whole different thing. Cup or I have them mixed up. What'd you say, Steve-O? Okay. Hello.
Did I skip?
Is there anybody
out? Hello.
There you go, Steve. You're good now.
Oh, I was just out on a organic certified commercial farm.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's a little different. It's not, organic certification is easier than weed. It's less restrictions, less regulations.
Speaking of, I'm pretty excited. Washington State is doing what I was actually on the board for this. It's pretty exciting. But Washington State was the first state to do organic certification for produce back in the day, and we're the largest certified organic producers in the country. And that's kind of surprising because California was so big. Is such a big, producer in general. Really? Yeah, but so I learned this because they're doing a cannabis certification, and it's under the Washington State Department of Agriculture's organic program.
Yeah.
They can't say the word organic on cannabis because it's a federal thing. but it's pretty exciting. So they're going to roll it out, applications in January. And it's kind of cool because it's going to be a little bit more intense than the national standard in that they're going to take into account inputs, like, you know, all of the inputs, whether it be energy, you know, nutrients, everything that you're doing in your system. So I'm really excited about it. It's not going to be called organic just yet until, you know, and the hope is that it's going to be above the national standard. And so that when we do federally legal, you know, do legalization, which could be within the year, it should be. I mean, I think most of us expect that at this point. Then we'll be able to put that organic word on there. But until then, it's exciting for those of us who are in the legal market, because it's such a challenge, and price, the race to the bottom is just, it's real. People are really selling pounds of weed for $250 of fire, you know, fire conventional hydroponic weed. And so to be able to distinguish that it's organic or has a certification, like we were saying earlier, is really awesome. And I'm super excited about it myself, because it's going to be more stringent. And
as long as you get the shelf space and the recognition where you actually still get the money, you know, that's the thing.
Right.
Are you going to get in the end what you plan, what you think you're going to get, or that is it going to turn out where you end up having to sell your, you know, you took a lot more care to have organic certification and you still only can get $250 a pound?
I think it's going to be a little bit dependent upon the whole thing, you know, because not all organic is the same, you know, and that's why I tell people, I never got certified organic as a vegetable producer. There was no way in hell I would have done that, because I talked to everybody that I sold my produce to, whether it was a chef usually, or I was at a farmer's market, or it was a CSA, and everybody knew me and got to talk to me and walk through the garden or hear about it. And there was no need to, and I actually started the paperwork, and it was crazy. It took me, I got to like 40 hours in on the paperwork, and I was like, fuck this is dumb. But in the situation here with cannabis and the way that it's rolling out, I will never get to talk to the people that buy my weed. It has to go through these stores and it has to be packaged in a sealed container, and so I can't even like pop jars and show it to them and like smoke them out, you know, like it's so unnatural. But that organic certification is going to hold a lot more weight to somebody in Seattle, you know, which is an hour and a half away from where I live, 75 miles. That is looking to like distinguish through this whole line of packaged weed, you know, that they can't smell, they can't see, or they can see it a little bit, you know, but they can't smell it, and they can't taste it before they buy it. Yeah.
Are you kidding? That's what they're going to do up there to you guys?
That's how it is. That's how it's been since the beginning. It has to be packaged out of the processor's facility. So when someone goes to buy it, it's in a sealed package.
Wow.
So
I never realized that, man.
If I could just be the same price point as like some of these companies and offer a better product that is actually certified, I think that a lot of people will choose that naturally. There's enough education in the organic vegetable world that as soon as it's offered, I think it'll kind of, and especially when people start smoking the organic certified, because I truly believe, I think all of us here do, that, you know, organic grown produce, organic grown cannabis, it tastes better, has more nutrient density in it. That's you know, that's something that cannabis is really going to help, in my opinion, showcase that the microbes make the difference in nutrition, and that'll transcend to our food, and not all that, you know, and that's why I say not all organics are the same. You know, it's a certification, but so it'll help, but in terms of sales, but in terms of nutrient density, you know, that's another story. But I ramble on.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
going to be interesting to see how that turns out. So.
Yeah, sorry, I just went off there.
No, I had something for you, and I got distracted because I was going to lead you on, but I lost my train of thought too.
Someone says, I like the Dragonfly Earth medicine dem pure certification.
Hell yeah, dude! I'm working on doing that. We only have one person in Washington State that's dem pure certified, and it's he just came online in the 502 scene. It's Pacific Northwest roots, Kaya, also worldwide roots. But yeah, so there's no one else in Washington State that's certified but me and a guy here in the same county as me, Eagle Trees. You guys should check him out. He does a really cool thing. He grows full term outdoor up in the mountains up here in Washington, where it's a lot colder than where I am. And so we're both interested in that, and have been talking to Josh and Kelly, and so we're just kind of it's a process, and we're all it's summer and we're working and gardening, but yeah, it's a pretty cool certification. It takes into account a lot more things than just inputs. You have to do I can't remember the number. I think 12, maybe 10, something like that. Closed loops. Meaning, where you're just closing some loops on your property. Maybe we feed the fish from our aquaponic system with some of the produce we grow in it, and we also eat the produce from that, and we feed our cannabis plants with the water from that. So that would be a closed loop. Or, the chickens are eating the scraps from your dinner table, and you're eating the eggs from your chickens. Different things like that. So it kind of it's definitely more intense than what I'm talking about. But yeah, I can't speak to fully all the things. Just yeah, go ahead, Roger.
Sometime. We need to get them back on again sometime.
Yeah, we do need to get them back on. They're. I'm just so impressed with those guys. The more I see and learn about what they have been doing.
They're fucking kick ass to hang out with and talk to in person. Like we all got a chance to hang out at the one conference, and they're just fucking awesome people, even outside of the work scene too.
You've been talking about asking them to be back on the show. We were behind. We've had conversations of different people we're dying to get back on because we so much enjoy, their expertise and everything.
We're gonna have a cool thing for episode 100, but
I think it would be cool to come back around with the guests that we've had on. I'm just stoner talk, and do like a smoke sesh where it's a little less intense. Because we hit some hard shit because we're all so excited. But
I still want to get Susan on as well.
We need to get Susan on a smoke sesh.
Yeah, and there's a lab in California that will take mail-in samples, and I want to get them on as well. So I know there's a lot of people in other areas that want to get their stuff tested, and got a couple of other cool guests lined up. We're also got Rasta Jeff from Grow From Your Heart podcast. He's in the lineup as well. So we got a whole bunch of cool people coming on the show.
Yeah, that's an idea, man. I'd like to be a company that's doing testing. That's going to be watch that industry shoot up. You're going to have to start watching out who you send your samples to. So
definitely.
Or who you buy the weed that's tested.
Full extraction as well.
Either way, you can always tune into the Growing with Fishes podcast, and we'll let you know who we, know is legit if we can.
Yep. Sorry, I'm having so many technical issues this week. I'm gonna have to switch routers for next week.
I have to get going, you guys. Thanks a lot, man. It was really great. I gotta drive up to San Pedro.
Yeah,
I'll see you tomorrow, Steve.
Yeah, we're gonna hang out, so we might have a quick video tomorrow.
Excellent.
A little quick stream or something, so keep an eye out.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. See you guys, Roger.
Good night, Mr. Green Jean.
Nice.
Good night, man.
Great talking to you guys. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Night.
again. I apologize for the lack of video. I'm having so many technical issues tonight. It's driving me nuts. I'm gonna switch routers and see if it doesn't fix it.
I
But
think
I'm
we
not
lost
gonna do that in
Marty.
the middle of the show.
We lost Marty again, I think, or he might have gone home. Did he say?
Yeah, good loss, Marty. You guys want to wrap things up? Are you? Oh, hold on. I was gonna say. So the other stuff that I grow, I've grown all different kinds. I've grown fruit trees and giant dual root zone 55-gallon drums, which was kind of cool. And then I've done a whole bunch of other fruiting crops and DRs, dual root zones and media beds, all different varieties of pretty much everything in vertical towers and raft beds, you name it. So if there's any kind of crops, anyone in chat have any questions on any kind of vegetables or how to grow anything in particular? Or does any of the panelists have any questions?
I want to get some of those tobacco seeds.
Tobacco seeds?
Was it? We were talking about that offline last week, or was that online?
Oh, I missed that. Well, I've had,
A couple weeks ago, I guess.
I missed a show a couple weeks ago because I was tired. Yeah, I live in a place where I don't know if I can or not, but right down the road there's an old tobacco farm, and they've always had their own tobacco seeds. I don't know how that'll work for you. Of course, I don't know. Are you privy to any tobacco that's indigenous of the Northwest?
I have an extensive tobacco seed collection he's referring.
Oh, really? Well, I'd like to talk to you too then.
I have some really rare tobacco varieties.
Yeah.
I have shaman's tobacco. I have some Jamaican tobacco that's not been genetically modified or fucked with. All kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, see, that's what I was looking for for friends of mine. I got some friends that still insist on smoking, and I wanted to try to get some kind of tobacco.
Called makla leaf in Jamaica. Nakla.
Yeah.
Makla.
That's neat. Now, that's interesting. We're sitting here on. Who'd have thought we'd be promoting tobacco?
A little tobacco now and then, especially shaman's tobacco. Shaman's tobacco is a little bit different usage.
I can imagine doing any kind of tobacco grown that's organic, like and unfettered from chemical.
The original version of tobacco was highly hallucinogenic. That particular variety is almost non-existent anymore, but there's some other derivatives that are out there, but I don't have any of those.
Well, it doesn't surprise me because nicotine's the most lethal poison on the planet. So it doesn't surprise me that you could trip off of smoking tobacco. Yeah. That's not why I wanted some tobacco, but now that you bring it up, that sounds interesting. I'm sure we're going to, if anybody's listening to us out there tonight, they're going to probably be interested in that.
Yeah, I'd love to eventually do an ethogens and aquaponics and go over how to grow a bunch of different stuff maybe one day.
We'll have to talk about that later because, I think that'd be kind of cool to have some tobacco because it's not illegal to grow tobacco. It's not illegal to grow tobacco, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, what do you got there, Dutch? What you got there, Josh? You're on mute.
That's my hand there. These are the seedlings.
Damn. Wow. Look at you.
They're growing, man. I'll try to get in here and show you some of these stalks. And I pulled most of the males out, but right there's my thumb next to it. Can you guys see that? These are big stalks, even all the way up. Here's my thumb. Let's see if I can get it in the video. Next to that stalk, almost to the top, dude. And I got a big thumb. I'm a big dude. I like seeds. I'm just like getting more into it. It's cool. So they're jamming. And then we got this bed over here.
It's built and getting planted out. It's 800 square feet right here, 8 by 100. So that's cool. Yeah. I'm walking around in my bare feet in my garden like a real gangster. But got some of these moms I moved over here. You guys can see all them. I just moved them out a day ago. And then the greenhouse is a full deal. And all these guys are doing real great. These guys are gonna blow up. You know, I'm really stoked the way they're growing. Finally, I got them out too early. You guys kind of saw that, but they're all jamming all the way down the line. It's hard to see with all the grass and stuff and the clover, but I'm excited.
That's a great space. Well, I'll tell you what, that's a great space.
Yeah, dude. And actually, we got another bed going on over here. I got a guy working. I think I told you guys he's helping me out, and he's busting ass. And he just started this second or his third bed. Another 800 square feet over here. So hopefully we'll have that done in another week or two. It's another Hugel bed, you know, and we'll get planted with all these Cinex. So I have the plants, you know, just to kind of, can we build the beds fast enough?
Wow, that is neat. Yeah. So you're gonna have another room for another one of those over towards the fence too, huh?
Yeah. So the plan is, well, you know, building it in such a way that I can put.
That's what it looks like anyway to me. Like you got.
So that I can put greenhouses over the top. So I'll do.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Now you really sound like, I love that. That's kind of how I do. You're building it so that you can throw a greenhouse over all of it when you're done. Okay.
Exactly. And there'll be
I love it.
5 greenhouses in the space. With a duck pond up there and then a creek that goes down the middle.
Now all right, now one has to think duck pond, duck shit. You're not worried about any contamination?
No, because I'm gonna have it moving, and I'm gonna have it filtered, and I'll test it. And it's not the things that you'd be concerned about in vegetable production, right? Would be like E. coli, right? But that is we're not growing lettuce. We're growing cannabis plants, and the water is so far away from the flowers, so it's a non-issue.
Good point. See, that's good. Yeah, because that's what it's all about, the E. coli. And it's
right. Yeah, with like a lettuce or something that's like closer to the ground. But
yeah,
you know what I mean, running through a drip system down here, and these plants are going to be 8 feet tall. You know, the flowers are going to be like 3 feet away from where the water drips out into the soil.
Yeah, and it does happen a lot with you're talking exactly lettuce. That's exactly what. Yeah, because that's the big scare about a decade ago out in California, or wherever it was, where the cows had infiltrated the water ditches, and they had a big E. coli scare with romaine lettuce out there. And
damn evil cow spies.
Huh?
Damn evil cow spies.
Yeah, well, anyway, I had a friend that shut down he had a successful romaine lettuce operation, and he had shut the whole thing down because even over here, just because somebody had something over there in California happen, people over here, I couldn't believe it, but people over here wouldn't buy romaine lettuce. So he ended up having to shut his operation down. So the big companies, I won't mention any names. I don't want to be sued. And I don't want to lose my standing in case I want to go sell vegetables to them either. But but they just slashed the price on romaine lettuce to the point where he couldn't continue to run his house. And he had a deep water culture pond in a 30 by 144 foot Columbine tunnel, it closed, with the whole, with a cold wall and the whole 9 yards, and it was an amazing operation. I was sad today that I went and helped, and we were basically there was in rafts. There was raft growing there, yeah, which all of you guys know. And he lost everything because of that. So it's that's why I asked that. But very good explanation. Sorry, he's like, you shut the pictures off.
No, I was moving through, but
yeah,
no,
that was
and it's not a perfect. I don't think anybody should go and like mimic this. Just this is not dialed yet, right? Steve's probably I've been calling Steve and messaging Steve on how I should start to set up my filtration, and this is going to be something that develops over time. That when I actually go to put it all together, there's going to be a 1/4 acre pond below that'll cycle through, and I'll have to get some people that are a lot smarter than me to help me figure out how to manage it. And
I think you'll do okay. I think you'll do just fine with the advice of people you already know. I think
I think so too.
But I like the idea of the 1/4 acre pond. That's about what I want back here. If I end up staying here through what I'm going through, where we're having a property thing with I'm just my life may be in flux pretty soon. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drag that in the show, but out back behind where I'm sitting, there's a spot that's low that always gathers several inches of water when it rains a lot, and I've always wanted to dig it all out and clear out. I mean, it's already kind of cleared out naturally, and I always wanted to build a pond, and I think it'd be about a 1/4 acre now that you say that, and that's neat. Because you've got, how big is that enclosed space you're in right there?
It's an acre, just under an acre.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got just over an acre here, and then I've got just over an acre next door.
Yeah.
But where I'm talking about the pond was like about 2/3 back of 350 feet. So about 250. Well, let me see. Yeah, about 220 to 260 feet. I've got an area where I always wanted to dig a pond, and then when I started, and I always wanted to put fish in it. I always thought about that stuff, and it could be it could come to a realization here in the next few months, but have to have a lot.
The real deal is it's got to be some sort of massive hybrid system, is the answer, because you can't, like on a 1/4 acre pond, you could stock it dense enough but you would have to have so much, production going out of that. It'd be crazy. It wouldn't make sense.
Feeding it pretty heavy.
Yeah, you'd be feeding the fuck out of it. So I think for me, it's a way to funnel. It's a way to save water off of all my structures and put it in a system that's gonna clean it and have fish in it that I can eat and goof around with my son and catch and whatever.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Of that, I can take it and use it in my garden, but I'm gonna have to break it down into different ways before I apply it. I can't just send it into those drip systems, for example, because it'll create a huge biofilm and clog it up over time, and then I have to rebuy, that plastic, fuel based product.
No, I was talking about having more of it, having a fish place too, and then you might be able to use it here and there. I wasn't trying to run a big aquaponic system off of it. I was just saying I wanted a pond, and it was about a 1/4 acre too, to put fish in. And I don't know if I was really thinking about fishing. I guess deep down, you probably think one day you might be able to fish, but that's a big thing too. To build a pond here, I'm not sure what you have to do there. But to build a pond here, you have to go. It's very expensive because you have to. There's a lot of lining. Some places you can dig an area out and it'll hold water.
I'm in clay, and the laws here are all for it as long for agriculture. and water storage, it's like they're all about it. So,
but you have to. But you're going to have to. So when you build your pond, though, well, now we're just maybe going back into a somewhere we discuss something people can learn something from. Here, I would have to do all the lining and buy all the the proper vinyl and all that to line the pond. Would you have to do you have to put all your pond liner and stuff like that down up there too?
I don't think I will, because I'm severely it's clay, layers and layers of clay. So I think that if I funnel all the water from my structures, because it rains so much here, oh shit, the saltinator. If I send all the water from my structures into it, it's gonna be constantly full.
That's pretty neat. I can't do that here.
I don't know. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't done it, but
yeah.
It makes sense from what I've read and learned, and I'm gonna have to get some people that know a little bit more about pond building than what I've Googled on the internet so far. But
interesting. So,
yeah, I think it'll be that simple, because we do get so much water. I'm in the northwest.
Oh well, we get plenty of water, but I'm in the swamp, and you can't dig a pond and expect it to stay full. It might, but it wouldn't be used. Well, I don't know. You might be able to. You could probably dig a big hole, and it's going to fill up with water most of the time.
But right, and that's why I'm thinking the big enough hole.
There's a clay that you can buy called Leonardite, I think it's called.
Leonardite.
I might be wrong on that. There's a particular type of clay that you can buy that actually will help seal it and make it watertight. Right. I don't remember the name of it. I think it's Leonardite, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it is Leonardite, but I don't know. I wouldn't argue that it isn't. But,
let me Google it. Hold on.
I Googled that shit. But yeah, no, something like that isn't gonna mess. I have to, that's not gonna mess with the pH and fuck with the plants or leach anything unhealthy into, something like that. But I in my situation, I can't see myself doing a big liner.
Okay, let me correct myself. It's bentonite.
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 Yeah, but that's what they used to drill wells. I believe I believe has some harmful shit along with it.
Depends on what you do. I used it a bunch in farm ponds and koi ponds to seal natural ones, and it worked. There's another one too. Hold on, let me look it up. There's two different ones that we used. There's bentonite, and then there's another one. Anyways, there's a red one as well that's not gray or white. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. It's been a while. But you would just dump it in and sprinkle it in, and it would help find those cracks and seal it up.
Well, we've got a good bit of clay, but I think as you get down, we're not too far from the water table. So I don't know. Actually, I think about talking about it. If you actually dug the hole out, it may just fill up with water. I don't know. But the thing is containing it and making it healthy,
That's why the stream and moving it.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah.
That's why I'm doing that whole thing. Is like the movement is what makes it healthy, and I'll make it a rock stream that, like, it's like it'll be like a mini rapid, right?
Oh, okay.
That's what you need, rocks and aeration to make all that. That's how nature does this shit.
You can have sand in that too.
A sand filter.
Well, a lot of people use sand with rocks too.
I mean, I don't know. I'm developing the idea. I need some help. I'm gonna, like I'm saying, I'm gonna have to get some people that know a little bit more about this than me. I could do it and go for it, but I'm gonna probably clog it up and make a mess unless I get somebody that, like, has kind of. There's companies that do this professionally, right? They do koi ponds and aquascapes, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, exactly.
So someone like that is really skilled in aquascaping might be really beneficial.
Actually, I used to run a Aquascape certified
There
facility.
You go. Yeah. So Steve is the guy that needs to just come do this.
Yeah. No, there's some tricks to it. You put a sub liner in, you put the liner in, and then you put another sub liner or two on top, and you can put your rock on, and it won't puncture your liner or anything. It's all different kinds of tricks you can do.
That's what I was talking about earlier, subliners. You know, you dig a hole, you put subliners down so you can control, then you have a control.
Yeah, the best subliner out there is you go to your local carpet store and you get all the
big carpet, yeah.
All the old carpet and carpet liner, and you throw that in your hole before you put your liner down. It's free. And most of it doesn't break down for 100 years or more. So it's fine.
You talk about carpet padding?
Carpet padding and carpet, all that synthetic carpet. It's just plastic.
Yeah.
It's like basically it'll last forever. It's great pond liner. Huh. You know, pre-liner to keep the rocks and the roots and shit off of.
Right, and then put your inner liner on top of it.
Yep.
Yeah, yep. Good idea. All right. Yeah, because that's all they do there. It's a padding. You know, basically what if you buy the high dollar stuff, they're selling you padding of some sort.
Yep.
You know, it's probably poly of some sort too, like you said. So.
Well, they have they do make a tougher one that I like to use on top of the liner if I'm going to put stone or rock in it. But alrighty, we're kind of getting up almost to 9 o'clock. Do you guys want to wrap things up? It's been a little bit of a sloppier episode than normal.
Yeah, we're just going on.
All right. If you guys why don't you tell everybody how to find you, Dutch?
On Instagram, mostly Dutch Blooms.
Cool. What about you, Roger?
And you can find me at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com here on the show Thursday nights. And I've got some other projects in the works, but as always, they're in the works. So we won't talk about them right tonight.
Yep. And then we got a forum over there for Aquaponic Cannabis growers. Be sure to check it out. He's got our own section for us over there. So.
Oh yeah, we welcome any of you that want to discuss show your systems off and invite new growers that would like to possibly go and convince them to use aquaponics as the way to grow. You're more than welcome to come over there and give it a shot.
Yep. And
thanks.
You can find me at Potent Ponics on YouTube. You can also find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play. Weed TV, big shout out to Weed TV. At some point here in the near future, we'll be switching to fully streaming over to them. Again, I'm still trying to work out some kinks before I can make sure it's 100% smooth every episode. I don't want to fully commit to killing it off on the other one. But we're getting there.
iHeartRadio.
We're on iHeartRadio. Thank you. We're on pretty much anything that has a podcast at this point. Stitcher, all that stuff. Speaker.com, pretty much everything. And then also check me out at ouroborosfarms.com. We have a whole bunch of different classes: medicinal herbs, cannabis, commercial classes, 101, 102, advanced aquaponics, all different kinds of stuff. We'll also be having some cool guest speakers. We have a guy coming in to speak on honey. We have a guy, a whole bunch of other stuff. And then we're again rescheduling that we were originally going to have in July for later in the year because of some scheduling conflicts. So I really appreciate all the hard work that Josh put in, and we will reschedule it for a little bit later in the year because of some last minute issues we're running into. So thanks a lot, and we will be back again next week. Again, sorry about the last couple of weeks. It's been a little crazy. I've been traveling a lot. Things should be back to normal from now on, at least for a little while. So thanks a lot, and we'll catch you guys again later. Take care.